StitchyTube. Settle down and watch StitchyTube. Hey guys, I'm excited to be here today. It's 3:45 in the afternoon on a Wednesday. What? And snow day. What? I can't believe it. I work at a bookstore at a university, and this is typically our Christmas time right now because the students are just getting back for the second semester of the school year. And so yesterday, Tuesday, and today, Wednesday, should have been two of our busiest days of the entire semester. I think we were expected to do like $1 million worth of business this week, something crazy like that. But yesterday afternoon, there was the threat of snow, and so they closed campus early at noon. I went in early and stayed until about 1:15. And then, this is Briar. You want to say hello? Say hello. They never look up, do they? She's so nice. So today should have been really busy too, and it started snowing yesterday afternoon, and it snowed and snowed and snowed, and we probably got maybe 2 or 3 inches. And the problem was that it fell first as kind of really wet particles of snow, and so it was ice underneath. And so last night, the university said, well, we'll open at noon on Wednesday. So I was figuring I'd go in at 11:30 today. And at like 7:30 this morning, they announced classes canceled because it's still pretty cold outside. There's still a lot of snow. I don't know how bad the roads are. We did not go out, but this is first snow day I've had. Well, no, that's not true. We had a snow day in December. So that's 3 snow days this year, which is crazy because I think in the 11 years that we've lived in Mississippi, we've maybe had 3 snowfalls in total, and then we've had 2 this year. And I'll take it. Growing up in North Dakota, a snow day like this would have been laughable to call everything off because a couple of inches of snow fell and it got down to 15. But here in Mississippi, the end of the world. So I got to stay home today. So that is fantastic. So excited about that. This is StitchyTube number 8, not including my tutorial, which I shot last time, and a lot of you had really nice things to say about it. I hope you go check it out. I'm going to start today with some questions from my last regular StitchyTube video. And Joan Clark asked if I have a go-to fabric for cross stitch, to just, something to kind of keep at home in the stash. And so what is a standard or staple for me might be different for other people because you really have to take into consideration what types of things you like to stitch. I like to stitch samplers, folk art pieces, kind of primitive things for the most part. And so the types of fabric that are staples for me would be linen. It's my favorite thing to stitch on is linen, especially 40 count and 32 count. Those are my two favorite counts. Natural to me is a great fabric. When I had my shop, I always referred to it as the denim jeans of the linen world because you can really dress natural linen up and put a very fancy sampler on it, or you can dress it down and put something kind of primitive or whimsical on it and it still looks good. So natural is just kind of a good all-purpose fabric. And natural linen, if you get some, smell it, it has kind of a nutty smell to it, or kind of a, like a earthy barn kind of a smell to it. And so natural is good to have, and it can come in different kind of shades. Sometimes you'll get natural linen and it's a lot lighter than other times you get it, it's darker. But it has kind of little flecks in it, and it's just kind of a neutral brown, and it's very good to have in your personal stash. White, you would think, would be something that would be a pretty good staple, but surprisingly, one of the things that surprised me the most when I had my shop was that white fabric got to be less and less and less popular, and I would go months sometimes without selling one piece of white. And I think, white fabric can be tricky. It certainly shows all your little tails and carries behind it. And it can be very stark sometimes, and you have to keep it very clean, obviously. So, but if you love white, keep white on hand. For me, I love to have tea-dyed fabrics, coffee-dyed fabrics, especially in 40 count and 32 count, like I said. R&R reproductions, that's some of my favorite tea and coffee dyed fabric. I've done some tea and coffee dyeing myself, and I like that too. But that's real practical if you like to do samplers and things. If you want to go Lakeside linens, light exemplar and exemplar are great colors, either in vintage or regular. Pat once told me at Lakeside Linens that she probably could run her entire business dyeing nothing but those two colors because they just are far and away her favorites. They're very practical. They look good with a lot of different types of pieces and a lot of different thread colors. So exemplar and light exemplar are very good. I like just kind of natural colors, browns, light, kind of brownish greens. But I always have some black on hand and some colors too. I think, one of the fun things about getting fabric for your stash is that you see a piece of fabric and you buy it and you're not really sure. You're just like, oh, I like that. And you're not really sure what you're going to do with it. And you might have it in your stash for 5, 6, 7 years. And all of a sudden you find a chart and you're like, oh, I know what I'm going to use that fabric for. If you like to stitch a lot of seasonal things, like maybe you like to stitch a lot of Christmas, it would make sense to keep, white, red, green, maybe black in your house. If you like to stitch a lot of Halloween, obviously I would go purples and oranges and black. If you like to stitch summery, springy things, obviously pastel fabrics would be good to keep on hand. But for me, I'm pretty boring as far as, my go-tos are typically brown, shades of brown. And that's okay, because I think they can be real practical. For a while, I really got on a navy bean kick by Lakeside Linens. And that's kind of a taupey, taupe, grayish taupe color, which is really nice. And pear is really nice. It's got a greenish tint to it. But that's really good too. Okay, thanks, Joan, for your question. Catherine Gill asked if samplers historically were stitched using silks. And yes, they were. Historically, silks and wools is what you saw. And sometimes you'd see silk and wool on the same piece. They had some really fine wool threads that they would use sometimes. As time got on, like if you go to the 1840s, 1850s, 1860s, wool becomes more and more prominent. I think it had something to do with the stability of the dyeing process for the wool, that it just tended to hold color really well. And they could get really vibrant colors that were really vibrant, purple, pink, bright green, just like, ooh, so much color. But they were excited about it. And so you saw less and less silk. Most of the samplers I have are stitched in silk, and I have a couple that are in wools or a mix of the two. But that's historically what you saw. Don't feel, though, that you have to stitch sampler reproductions in silk. It is an expensive way to go. Silks are very smooth. They're very pretty. They have a very soft sheen to them. And they're really nice. The layman or laywoman looking at your sampler on the wall is not going to be able to tell that you stitched it in cotton or silk. Silks are really nice. And if you've never stitched with silks, just maybe try like a one color piece. Maybe something small like a fob or something with some silk, and see what you think. I do both. I stitch in cottons and silks. I stitch in fancy threads, and I stitch in DMC or Anchor. There are a lot of great threads out there, so you just kind of got to go with what you like. And don't ever feel like, your sampler's not as good if it's not stitched in silk. Your sampler is good. You're doing a good job, even if you, stitch it in dental floss. And if you do that, send me a picture. The last question that I'm going to answer today is from Knitting for My Boys, and she wondered if I use Thread Heaven or Thread Magic. That is a product that, believe it or not, I had never tried. I carried it in my store, and let's see, like a year ago, my friend Jennifer found some at, what's it called? Tuesday Morning, where it's kind of like TJ Maxx. And she found them and they were like $1. So she bought all of us in the stitching group one, and it's like, oh, thanks, And then like months later, it was announced that Thread Heaven, the company, was just done. Like they weren't making anymore and you wouldn't be able to get it. So of course, once you try it, you're like, oh my gosh, this is really cool. So I did a whole project where I used Thread Heaven with every piece of floss. And I liked it. I mainly liked just having that little extra, condition my thread and pulling it through. And it does make your thread feel real smooth, for a while. I didn't notice, for me, that it made a huge difference in how my piece looked. So I have used Thread Heaven. I still have some, and I use it if I just kind of feel like being really fancy. But for me, it's not something I feel like I need to use. I hadn't used it. I'm almost 50 years old, And so I've gotten, it's got along without you before I met you, going to get along without you now, kind of one of those things. But I think it's fine. If other people use it, that's great, because it is kind of cool. Okay, so thanks for your questions. Do ask questions. I like to answer those here if you've got any. Here's my next segment, what I'm all into. And I'm all into Russian tea. And I'm going to pull a bendy stitchy right now. I'm drinking out of my Hawaii mug. My mom collects these mugs, actually, and my husband does a lot of traveling for work, and so he picks them up for her and brings some home for us, too. Russian tea is something, I think, I was in the ornament issue once, and I put the recipe in there. My grandma Carmen had this was a recipe. My mom's got the original written in my grandma's handwriting. It is comprised of tang, sugar, instant tea, lemonade, cloves, cinnamon and allspice, maybe? I don't remember. I'll put the recipe below. The Russians drink a type of spiced orange tea, and this is probably nothing like what the Russians drink, but it's called Russian tea for whatever reason. My mom grew up in Brampton, North Dakota, which was an itty-bitty little town that is, there are not very many people living there. A lot of the buildings even are gone now. They actually, the church down the street from my mom was a Lutheran church that was maybe built by Norwegians, and they actually took it apart and shipped it to Norway, and they put it back together, which is really cool. But my grandma would make Russian tea, and then you just put a few spoons in hot water, and it's tangy tasting, because it's tang, so it's very like an orange drink, but it's got like the cinnamon and the cloves. And so, my mom grew up drinking it, I grew up drinking it, my kids now, I hadn't made it for probably 10 years, and I was like, why haven't I made Russian tea for a while? Do use Tang brand if you're going to try it. I find that it really is better with Tang and not the knockoff brand. And it may be weird to you, it's just one of those things, we grew up with it, and so drinking it, you kind of are taken back in time. It's kind of cool. I am all into snow days, and I mentioned that at the start, but I got no makeup on. I got my t-shirt on. I got my pajama pants on and my slippers. I have showered, but I showered late. I woke up this morning early and I went back to bed for a little while. And I'm drinking Russian tea and I'm talking to you about needlework, and then I'm going to sit there and stitch my butt off for the rest of the day. It's going to be great. Snow days, don't get very many of them, so I'm pretty excited about a snow day. I'm also all into books about food. And this is one that I'm reading now. It was on my Amazon wish list, and I got it as a Christmas gift. It's all about the history of butter. And I'm only this far in. I use my, flap to keep track. And it's really good so far. It's very interesting. I like to read about the history of food or the culture of food, because I think what we eat says a lot about us. So now I'm trying to think what it says. I drink hot Tang, but that's a good book. So butter, and I'll put a list below of all the ones I'm going to show you, just in case you want to go looking for them yourself. This just came out. This is a new book. Another book that I would really highly recommend is called Going with the Grain. I've actually read this twice, and I'll probably read it again. I love bread. Oh, I love bread. And this book, Susan Seligson traveled to different countries and parts of the United States to talk about bread, like the culture of bread. She went to a Wonder Bread factory. She goes into, the city where people form their loaves at home, like they make their dough at home, and it all gets taken to a bakery and they bake it, and then somebody either, from that family goes to pick up the baked loaf. They pay, a certain amount of money to have them bake it, because it's very difficult to maintain, ovens in this city. And they either go pick it up, or they send someone, or someone's like, hey, is that so-and-so's loaf? I'll take it to him. I'm going by. And for some reason, they can keep track of whose loaves belong to who. And anyway, it's pretty fascinating, and she's a good writer. It's very accessible and not, sometimes you read books and it's like really academic. This is just it's a fun read. And I think there may be recipes in here too, I think. But Going with the Grain, great book. Two for the Road is by Jane and Michael Stern, and you may recognize those names from NPR. They are on Lynn Rossetto Kasper's The Good Table. What is she on? I can't remember. Lynn Rossetto Kasper from NPR. They're on her show sometimes, and they basically, their their thing is that they drive around the United States and try out different restaurants and try the local specialties. And so this book is all about how they kind of got into this idea of going to these diners and dives and finding these little kind of hole-in-the-wall places that make some really amazing local type of a thing. And it's a really funny book. It's kind of a romantic book in a way because they're a husband and wife, and they just obviously are crazy about each other and crazy about food, and it just makes you want to travel and find some of these places. I remember one of the things they talk about in here is that any restaurant with a homemade sign with an animal on it, so like a pig or a chicken or whatever, if it's hand painted, they said pretty much without a doubt that food is going to be awesome. That's just one thing that they've learned from the years of traveling. 2 for the road. Some of these books may be, a little bit older, but don't be afraid to buy a used book. You can find great deals on used books on Amazon. Candy Freak is by Steve Almond, and I love candy. I know I've said it before, but he talks about and goes to a lot of these just kind of more independent candy manufacturers. We've gotten to a point where, like Mars and Hershey kind of operate the biggest, candy makers in the country. And so it's a history of like how there used to be so many different candy companies that had specialties. And he kind of goes to some of those that are still in existence, like the people that make the Malamars, the people that make the Spud? And it's funny, and it's very interesting, and it's just, it's a lot of really quirky, interesting people that he meets along the way, and every chapter is a different chocolate maker. So that's a good book. And yes, his name really is Steve Almond, and he wrote about candy. The Book of Salt, I'm going to recommend too. This is similar to the one that I'm reading now about butter, where it's just a history about salt, which you think, oh, salt, that's just regular. But you have no idea how difficult it used to be for people to have salt. When you talk about someone being worth their salt, salt used to be worth a lot because they would have to go to extreme measures to, they'd get salty water and tend to fire and boil it down and boil it down and boil it down until salt was left. It was crazy. But this is very interesting. And you think salt is such a staple, but you have no idea like what salt meant through history. It's a very, very entertaining book. The last one that I'll talk about right now is Gumbo Tales, Finding My Place at the New Orleans Table by Sara Roahen. And I live in this part of the country now. We moved here, and so this was really interesting to read. It's about, she moved to the New Orleans area as a cook and went to, again, local kind of dives and diners and specialty places. There's a really entertaining chapter about a snow cone company that's been around forever. And I think there are recipes in this one too. And it's just so interesting to hear about the local food culture and kind of what it meant to her. And I won't ruin the ending, but this is a great book too. And I think this one is a little bit newer than some of the others. But anyway, I'm all into books about food. So I'm reading about butter this week. Last thing I'm all into this week is high fives. And one thing I've noticed is that like it's hard to offer someone a high five and for them to reject you. And so when I'm at the bookstore, I'm dealing with college kids for the most part. And they have bad days just like we do. Bad days and good days. And sometimes you get one where they're just looking a little bit grouchy and they come in and they're getting their books or whatever, and I'm at the register. And I say, would you like a bag with that? And they say, no, thank you. Would you like your receipt? No, that's okay. Would you like a high five? And they go, what? And I say, would you like a high five? Every single time they've gone, yeah. And then they hold their hand up and you give them a high five. They smile every single time. And so like this time of year, I have to hire like 25 people to come work for me for 3 or 4 weeks, and then they go away because we're getting through our rush season. And when I see somebody doing a good job, I high five. And it's such a simple little like half a second thing to give somebody, but it really is amazing what a high five does for somebody. So give it a try. Give someone a high five this week and see what happens. You're sure to get a smile. All right, that's what I'm all into this week. The winner of the last giveaway was Kim Goldman, and she wins a yard of Blackbird Designs sampler fabric. I think I have it here somewhere. Here it is. So pretty. This is a fabric that is not people are like, how do you find it? And it's not available anymore. But the question last time was, what were your hopes for the new year? And Kim said that she was hoping that her son's plans to move back to California worked out. And I totally hear you. My kids are at home. Harrison, this is probably his third or fourth time moving back. And Graham hasn't left. And some people think it's weird. But I say, like, what's wrong with having your family together? I really like having my kids here. And I will take every minute that they're willing to give me. They're great boys. A lot of people had hopes for more kindness in 2018, more civility, people being more supportive of each other. Some people wanted to get their finances in order. Some people, were just hoping that 2018 would be a happier year for them. And so all of those things, those are all good. It's all good to have hope, I think, because if you've lost hope, what have you got? I have a new giveaway, of course. I was looking for what can I give away today? And I've got these cool little black folk art scissors and black pins. It's 150 black French mourning pins. They are discreet and utilitarian, and they are presented in a compact reusable container. They're kind of cool. I used to sell these at my shop, and I've got some left myself, and I use them. They're real smooth. They're thicker than a regular pin. They look great in pen cushions and stuff like that. So I'm going to give you a pair of black scissors and a package of black pins. It's like a $16 value. To one of you who comments and subscribes in my comment area. And so I think the question this time is going to be, if you had a snow day, what would you do on your snow day? And so if you just answer that question in the comments, you will be entered. And the next time I make a StitchyTube video, I will do a drawing and see who wins. And I'll mail you that, and it'll be super fun. Okay, one more sip of Russian tea. Oh, a long time ago, my mom was new to email. And, it was back when the internet was pretty new. And I think I must have typed like LOL or something. And my mom was like, LOL, what does that mean? And I was like, oh, laughing out loud, right? And so she didn't get it. She didn't get that there were already things that were kind of set in place as far as the words. So she was like, missing you. I'm just sitting here drinking ACORT. And I was like, Mom, you can't just make up. But I knew that ACORT meant a cup of Russian tea. But she thought you could just abbreviate anything and that people would know what it was. I just thought that was kind of funny. Okay, I like to do a list of 10 in a lot of my videos, and I'm going to do a list of 10 today. This is 10 charts that I have that I'm wondering, why haven't I started this yet? They're charts that I love, that I've maybe had for a good long time, that I just haven't gotten around to stitching. This one is called Union Forever, and it is a Blackbird Designs chart by Maggie Bonanami. And it's so cute. My friend Jen stitched it, and it's adorable. And it wouldn't take very long to stitch. You can't get this chart anymore. It's not very many colors. I don't have a good reason. Isn't that cute? I should stitch that. Number 2. Why haven't I stitched this? Dutch Beauty. Yeah, it's pretty beautiful. And I've seen people stitching on it on FlossTube, and I've seen people at retreat stitching it. And it's amazing. And it's huge. It's huge. It's really big. It's very, very big. I don't know why I haven't started that yet. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous sampler. And this chart is still available. Ask your local shop, and it's not expensive. Number 3 chart, why haven't I started this yet? This is one I got at the Silver Needle when I went to a retreat. Exemplar Dames Design Company. It's called Forgiveness. It's very pretty. This one is going to be hard to find too. I think theirs, they kind of played with the colors and used their own colors. Yeah, because this one is stitched on the HDF, the hand-dyed fibers, the silks, and you can't get those anymore. But she has a needlepoint and DMC conversion. And it would be fun just to pick some gently over-dyed silks or cottons to stitch that in. It's very pretty. I love that it's got two alphabets at the top that are the same. I think that's neat. Another chart, this is what, number 4. Why haven't I started this yet? The Happy Heart Sampler by Birds of a Feather. This one was released in some year. It doesn't say. It doesn't say. I've had this chart forever. I used to sell it in my shop. I think it's so cute. Look at this flower growing out of the heart. It's very kind of fractory looking. And it says, busy hands make happy hearts. And I just think that is really super cool. And I don't know why I haven't started it yet. I think I've taken it out a few times and actually started to put together the supplies to do it. It's 200 by 150. It's stitched on Meadowlark, which you can't get anymore, but you could just do any tea or coffee dyed fabric. I think this one is still available too. I think Hoffman Distributing has still got this one. So ask your local shop to get you a copy. Don't pay $50 for it on eBay. Another chart, I don't know why I haven't started it, this is Marjolaine Bastien's Summer Fruit. I love her charts. And this is one of my favorites. It's so pretty. Green and red and taupe and little birds and little butterflies. That's really pretty. Why haven't I started it? There's no good reason. It's one of these fold out kind of charts. Whoop! And that's what it looks like. So it's colored, so it's a nice, easy chart to work from. That's one I really would like to start too. I don't know why I haven't. Okay, this next one has been in my mind for years, and it's just dumb that I have never started it. And this is NSFW. This is not safe for work. Her little boobs are showing. The Mermaid Song by Kathy Barrick. And this one came out a good long time ago, 1999. Oh my gosh, that's almost 20 years old. Isn't that crazy? I love her. I love those little fish. You can see the water that she's swimming in is satin stitches in rows to look like kind of ripples and waves. And the verse says, eyes look not on the mermaid's face, nor ears forbear her songs. Her face hath an alluring grace, more charming is her tongue. And the colors are cool. And I wish I had that frame. That's a Hog River frame, I'm sure. They were so cool. I loved this one too. I've never started it. I should. I don't know if that one's available still. Probably. Another Birds of a Feather. Garden Cat. Love it. It's a neat chart. There's not really that much stitching. It's just a lot of kind of outlining. And I think it would be really cute done pretty small on 40 count, or even over 1 would be cool. But it's just a little tabby cat with a little ribbon around his neck. He's really cute. He's kind of done in the style of their sampler girls that they have the summer and winter, autumn and spring pieces. This one just came out last year, the Smith Sampler by the Scarlet House. And this, I saw the original in person, is a stunner. I used it as I took a picture of the model and used it as a backdrop on my phone for most of last year. And even though I looked at it every day and I still love it, love it, love it, I don't have a good reason why I haven't started it. It is stitched in Belle Soie, Dinky Dyes, Gloriana, and then she's got a DMC conversion. Hers was stitched on 46 count. So it's very, very fine, I've never stitched on 46 count before. It would be fun to try. But that's the Smith Sampler by Scarlet House. Very, very talented designer and reproducer of samplers. All right, I've got 2 more. Santa's Magic by Marilia. I'm not sure if this one is still available. I bought this a long, long, long time ago, before I ever had a shop. It came out in 1995, so that was the year I opened my shop in 97. So 2 years before I opened my shop. And it's gorgeous. At one point, I had the fabric to do it. It's got 3 different beads and about 8 different metallics. And he's just gorgeous. I don't even know if you can get that. It's desert sand linen, 32 count desert sand, but it would look great on a hand-dyed something or other. But he's very pretty. It's not one that I really see people talk about on FlossTube. They do a lot of the mermaids and fairies and things, but I think he is just so pretty. And I like that if you look at his arm here, that it's just the color of the fabric showing through. I think that's a clever design element in that one. Very pretty. Okay, last one. Why have I not started this? Joyeux Noël. This is a book that came out by Blackbird Designs, and it's got some really great patterns in it, including this this cardinal piece here. And a cute stocking with the Eiffel Tower. I stitched this and made it into an ornament. But I love that. And it is actually, that is based on an antique. I'm trying to remember if they've got a picture of it in here. They do. Okay, so there's the original. And you can see that it is, it has just got the person's name. And Blackbird Designs, they're really cool because they kind of, you know, put that in there so it could be more all-purpose. But it would be cool just to do your name too. Don't know why. It's a very pretty sampler. And it wouldn't have to be just Christmas, but it is kind of Christmassy. So those are 10 charts that maybe I'll start some of them this year. I'm not really sure. But I'm sure you have charts also that you're not really sure why you've never started something. Maybe take a look through your stash and see if you can find something that inspires you, something that you've maybe had for a long time, and say, gosh, I'm just going to sit down and start this. I love this. Okay, I've got a couple of whips, and I'm also working on pieces for market. I'm going to market in March, and so I've got a number of pieces that I'll be releasing and some fun plans up my sleeve. But I have done some more work on Miss Elizabeth Perkins by Kathy Barrick. This is how far I've gotten. She's got a face and a hat and some hair now. And I'm making good progress on her skirt. The skirt is really big and it's solidly filled in, so it takes a good long time to do it. The cool thing is that the little flower clusters are all the same, so it's once you get the kind of where the first stitch goes on your little flower cluster, you know where the rest of it's going to go. And so I'm just filling that all in. But I love her just powder white face and her fancy jewelry. It almost reminds me of the morning jewelry like that Queen Victoria used to wear, the black onyx, was it? I don't remember. But I'm stitching that on 40 count pecan pie just in DMC, and it looks very, very pretty, and it's been fun to do. I was inspired by Nicole's needlework like a week and a half ago or so. I was watching and catching up on some of her videos, and they're really fun to watch. And I'll put a link to Nicole's channel down below too. And she mentioned this sampler, which I've had for a while, like a long time, Anne Grimshaw 1818 by the Scarlet Letter. And you can see it's 1818, so that's 200 years ago this year that she finished her sampler. And I thought, oh my gosh, I started that one. I should dig it out and give it a go and see if I can get this one finished this year. And just kind of in honor of the 200th anniversary of her finishing her sampler. It's very pretty. I'm stitching it in the black silk. I didn't use the linen that came with the kit. I used something hand-dyed by R&R Reproductions. It's a tea or coffee dyed fabric 40 count, and that's how far I am. It's very fun. It's very fun to do. And it's neat because each little medallion is kind of a finish. You know what I mean? You can sit down in an evening and pretty much knock one of those out, and you feel like you're making good progress. And this has got alphabets on it, and you know how much I love alphabets, and it's got numbers. And so I get to stitch medallions for a while, and then alphabets and things. And the alphabets will go really quick too. So anytime you stitch a piece that's all in one color, it goes really fast because you're not digging for colors and things. Jennifer makes fun of me because she says, oh my gosh, people would just die if they saw how you stitch. A lot of times I will just have a clump of the threads that I'm using for a sampler, where it's like, some bobbins of DMC, and I just kind of have a clump, and I'll just be picking threads out. Oh, this is that color. This is that color. Whatever. You gotta do what you gotta do. Now, the last StitchyTube video that I had, I pulled out a new project to start, and it's not time for me to do that again. But I thought I'd share with you the one that I am going to start, which is Moulin Rouge, and this was what I pulled was to start a monochrome sampler. And this one has been out a long, long time. You can see it's pretty big, 364 by 364 stitches. This came out a long time ago, probably like 17 years ago maybe, or something like that, 15, 17, 18 years ago. It's very, very pretty. I have a bunch of red silk that I think I'm going to stitch this in. I'm just trying to decide if I want to stitch it on, I probably will stitch it on a light neutral. I don't think I want to go white. I don't even know if I have any white. But I think I'm going to go with a light neutral, and that red will look really pretty on it. And again, it'll be similar to the Anne Grimshaw piece where every little medallion is a new finish. So I think that's the one I'm going to start. She had a number of these charts. They're still available that were all kind of one color, and it's just kind of fun to do a one color piece sometimes, isn't it? Okay, so those were my whips. I don't have any FFOs. Like I said, I'm busy working on things for market. I'm nearing completion on one of them, and I'm well over halfway on another one. But I thought I'd show just something that I finished once, which is this Blackbird Designs mystery sampler piece. It came out in 5 parts in 2008. And so it was their Blackbird Loose Feathers Club, and there were little kind of bonus charts with each Loose Feathers chart that were near the back of the book. They're not available anymore, and I don't know how you would find them. You may have them in your stash, look around, but it was really fun to stitch. They stitched theirs on 30 count, and I think Jennifer stitched this one too, and I think she stitched hers on 30 count. I stitched mine on 40 count, just, a tea dye or coffee dyed linen, and it was really fun to stitch. Let's see if I can. And it was very fun to stitch, and I did make up one change. These flowers here were shorter, and so there was kind of a space between the birds and the flowers that I thought was too much space, because the rest of the sampler is pretty filled in, and it looked just like too much space. So I moved the flowers up. I just extended them up so that they covered more area. But there's lots of little blackbirds in there, which is just really cute. I don't think I've stitched any of the loose feather pieces that these came out of, but I did stitch this. I thought it was just brilliant. It's so, so, so pretty. And there are a lot of things in here that you really could just stitch these as single, like a fob or a pincushion or a little pillow. The frame is Eastside Moldings, and I think it's really great. I think that's all I've got for today. This is shorter than usual, but you know what? I'm on a snow day, so, this is long enough for me because I'm going to spend the rest of the day stitching. I do appreciate all of your comments and your questions and just your niceness. I think, stitchers are just some of the sweetest, nicest people, and you guys certainly are among the best of those. And, you know what? I'm going to say something about commercials on FlossTube. One of the things that I do when I'm watching FlossTube is if a commercial starts, that means that person has monetized their videos. You don't make a lot of money monetizing your videos. You make a little bit. But what you can do for your floss tubers if a commercial starts is just watch the commercial. If it's 15 seconds, watch the whole thing. If it's more than 30 seconds, you only have to watch 30 seconds of it for them to make money that you watched that commercial. So once you've hit the 30-second mark, once I hit the 30-second mark when I'm watching a floss tuber, then I'll click skip and then watch the video. And it's not as much as you would think. I think, like my tutorial that I did last week has got maybe 1,500 views or 1,700 views, and I've made $4 or something like that right now. I don't know how many people watched commercials. Some of my videos I've made a little bit more, maybe like $8 or $9. But when you think of the hours that go into editing and shooting a video, nobody's getting rich off of these. I guess YouTube might be getting rich, but it is kind of nice I intend to use, once I do get a check, I think they send you a check once you hit a total of $100, and to just use it to just, get a treat for myself or something like that. I do like to watch the commercials to support the floss tubers that I watch. And I'm not saying you need to do it. I'm not begging you to do it for me. I'm just saying if you're interested in giving a little bit back to your favorite floss tubers, that's one thing you can do, is just watch a commercial for 30 seconds. Anyway, I think that's going to be about it today. I had fun. It was kind of quiet cat activity here today. I guess I got Ruby. It's kind of cold outside, and I've got Briar behind me today. And it's just been kind of a snuggly day out with snow on the ground and no work. So I know what I'm going to be doing the rest of the day. I hope you're going to be doing something fun the rest of the day. It was fun talking to you. See you later. Bye-bye.